Hello, everyone. Welcome back with me, Valerie Williams of Dimensional Talent Streams, redirecting you in being fruitful and multiplying. Today, I have a special guest on. I call her one of those women that is a part of my dream team. And yes, dream team, because you need to have 4 or 5 people that is backing what you do in life. And whether you have a business or not, you need to surround yourself with a dream team that's going to keep you educated, push you, and just kind of advance where you are and to where you're going. So she is a part of my dream team. This is Amber Whitehead of Whitehead Tax. She is my CPA. And if you have followed me, liked, comment on my Dimensional Talent Streams YouTube channel, you know I have done a segment on taxes before. Whether you are a business owner, just getting started, wherever walk of life you are in business, but even if you are not, our tax preparation and what we do once a year with our taxes is critical. So I have her on and she's going to educate us, tell us some things we didn't know, what we do need to know, what we're doing wrong, what we could do better. And hopefully this is going to add some value to you and you can run and implement these things right away because we are in mid August right now. And pretty soon them W-2s, W-4s are going to be coming out, 1099s are going to be coming out. We're going to be starting this wheel all over again. So where are you going to be on that wheel when new tax season comes up? Where are you going to be? Let's kind of change our position because we don't change our position, we're not going to be able to change our condition. So welcome Amber with me of Dimensional Talents Team. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me aboard, Valerie. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So let's get it. You're the tax lady. Why do they call you the tax lady? And everybody is like, taxes, I'm scared to talk about it, don't want to talk about it. I gotta grind my teeth, talk to us.
Tax lady kind of, just came from just people just saying like, hey, call my tax lady and all this. So I kind of just like adopted that name. So it's kind of like a self-proclaimed name. So I just call myself Amber the tax lady or whatever. But I am the owner of Whitehead Tax and Financial Services. I am based out of Connecticut, but I do provide virtual services to my clients. My mission is to teach you, the entrepreneur, how to maximize your tax deductions in order to create the lowest tax liability out there possible, legally, of course. And I do that by teaching my clients how to use everyday spending as a way to creatively be able to make those a write off. I am also an IRS enrolled agent, which gives me, I have the highest license that the IRS gives to tax professionals. So if you are stuck in an audit or can't sleep at night because you have all this tax debt, I am the one that you need to call. I'm also a private
Oh,
first professional where I implement that methodology into my small business owners. So that way they are able to make data driven decisions when it comes to their spending. So that is me in a nutshell.
now how did you get started in taxes and taxes of all niches or a profession to get into? Like, when you hear tax, you think I got to be good at math, I got to be good at number crunching, finding those nickels, dimes, dollars. So what was it for you that got you into taxes? Why the love for taxes of all professions?
So it kind of just fell on my plate when I started working at 16. Like I did my own tax return and I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. And then from there, I just started doing like all my other friends' tax returns and things like that. And it just kind of was just something I just gravitated towards. I ended up going to school for accounting, but never did I ever think that I was going to do this as a career self-employed wise. My goal was just to work at a big time CPA firm and end up being a partner. And that's how I wanted to live my life.
Right.
But in 2008, when the whole housing crisis happened or whatever, I was unemployed for 2.5 years. And so that was my aha moment when I said, you know what? There's no such thing as job security, right? That's actually one of the most insecure positions you can be in if
Mm,
you are relying only on that one source of income, right?
mm,
Because if you're not like how the pandemic just happened where people could be on unemployment for 2 years at a time, but typically when there's just a regular situation and you get laid off from your job, depending on what state you live in, you really only have like 6 months to collect unemployment. So now you're blowing through your unemployment, and if you have 401k retirement money, you're blowing through that. So that's when I was like, you know what, I never want to put myself in a position again where someone can take my livelihood away from me. So
Mm.
that's why I was like, you know what? Let me get more serious about, this tax business because I do have a small following and just make it official. And so that's when I finally birthed Whitehead Tax in April of 2012.
Congratulations, and you are doing so much. Talk to us about that fear of taxes, because when you think of taxes and tax time's coming up, we kind of get that pit in the stomach. We're kind of like, fix it, Jesus, or I'm just doing this just to do this, or I'm going to wait till the last minute because I know I owe. I'm going to wait till the last minute, and just that mythology that we have and those feelings and emotions that we get when we hear about taxes. Talk to us a little bit about that and how we can get on the other side of the fence with changing those emotions.
Right. So I think a lot of people are just scared of the IRS, right?
Yes.
The number one thing is people are just like, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want them knocking on my door, and things that nature. And then, if you are not sure of how well you did financially, that can be intimidating too, because now you're like, oh my God, I got to file these taxes. I don't know where I'm going to land now. I'm probably going to owe a whole lot of money. So, people have that fear too. So they just think, you know what, I'm just not going to file. Right. So, but that's like actually the wrong way to do it, because especially if you do owe, if you keep not filing those tax returns, a couple of things could happen. Right. After a certain time frame, the IRS, if they don't see that you have filed your return, they will file it for you. And they're not going to do it in your best benefit. So, prime example, like say if you are married, right? And you don't file your taxes, 5, 6 years or whatever, they're going to file you at single. So now that's the highest tax bracket than it is for a married couple, right?
Mm.
Or if you have a business, they're not going to consider your deductions that you may have. They're going to tax you 100% on the 1099s that they see that has been reported to you, right? So that's one reason why, even if you're going to owe, still make sure you file a timely um, return, definitely doing an extension. But I think the way we can kind of get on the other side of that is deal with a tax professional that you can talk to all year round,
Come
right?
on, come
So
on.
then that way you can plan appropriately and take some of that fear out. Because if you know what your liability is gonna be next year, then you have time to process that and do whatever you need to do to minimize, that gap throughout the year. Whether it's you want to send estimated tax payments, or maybe you have to change your withholdings, but at least now you're prepared to know, oh, holy crap, I'm going to owe this. Oh, actually, I'm going to get a refund. This is good. So tax planning and dealing with a tax professional is the way that we can kind of conquer that fear.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that is very key about tax planning and finding a good tax professional. Now, I know people are going to ask me, well, how did you find your tax professional? How come you mentioned she's a part of your dream team? And for that, like I said, guys, having a tax professional, having some coaches behind you, and especially, those areas where we're weak in. We're not all proficient in every single area, which is fine. And we tend to kind of want to hide behind that, or we front and make it look like, oh, we got that covered, we're under control, we're good at this, blah, blah, blah. And we really have to get real with ourselves. If we really want to advance and we do want to change that position so that we can change our condition, we really have to look at those things that we are weak in and be able to be honest with ourselves and say, okay, I'm going to need some help in this area, or I'm not proficient in this, and I know I got to deal with this and I need help. So that's the first step, and start seeking things out. Whether you got to find books, whether you got to ask a friend, a colleague, whether you got to go online, whether you got to do, social media, so, everything's on YouTube, going on YouTube, but start somewhere to do the research. Now, Amber and I met because I'm with a financial organization where they educate people on their finances. Everything that you can think of to educate you on your finances, especially for entrepreneurs and business owners. And there was a tax group that came out of that, and that is how Amber and I met. And so I was like, listen, the first thing I want to do when I started getting educated and learning how I can better what I do with business and the things I need to do better was I was like, I got hip to building the dream team. And it was a CPA. It was end of life end of life family planning, things as a single person that I needed to focus on that would be different from somebody who was married. So speaking of that, you mentioned about single, there's different ways to file our taxes, whether single, head of household, married, jointly. Tell us, because I know for me, I'm getting educated about this, is the difference between single and head of household.
Okay. So the difference, the primary difference between single and head of household is, in order to qualify for head of household, you have to have a qualifying dependent or a qualifying relative. That is the number one, criteria that you have to have. Then from there, you have to be able to state that you are supporting this person over 50%, right? So that means you're providing all their housing costs, their food, their everyday expenses, right? So it's pretty easy when you have a qualifying dependent, because 9 times out of 10 is usually your biological child or a stepchild or a foster child or whatever. It gets a little gray area when it becomes a qualifying relative, because there's more restrictions in order to qualify. Like if you wanted to claim your mom or your parent or something like that, or even if you wanted to claim a significant other when you're not married, because you are able to do that, but you have to make sure everything is done, with decency and with
Order.
accuracy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Decency and order. We always say that. So
yeah.
decency and order even applies with tax planning. So one of the things you mentioned now was finding a good tax professional to kind of eliminate some of those fears that we may have going forward. And a part of that too is education, because when you can find a good tax professional, they can educate you, and then you become more knowledgeable, and then you're not as fearful when you have to do your own taxes, and then you can begin to share that information with other people.
Right.
So what would you say you would begin for trying to find a tax professional? Because you did your own taxes, that developed and birthed into a career. So what would you say for people on how do they even begin? Where do they go to find a good tax professional? I know I mentioned some, but for you as on the other end of the spectrum, what would you advise?
So my first advice would be is go directly to the IRS website. The IRS has, if you go inside their website and put in the search tax pros, you will be able to get a directory of tax professionals that's in your area, right? I like that approach first, because anybody who is listed in that directory is either a CPA or EA, a tax or a tax attorney, and or someone who went through a little bit of education to at least be current on the tax laws. Because my feeling is that if you are going to hire someone to do your taxes, I would think you would want to make sure that the person you're hiring is up to date with the current tax laws.
Right?
So that's the first place, because at least it gives you a warm fuzzy feeling that they're in the IRS directory. Then from there, vet them out, ask them questions, ask them if they're available, all year round for questions. If you are a small business owner, ask them what industries that they specialize in, because that's going to be really key too. And I always use the analogy that we go to our primary care physicians, every year for our regular checkups and stuff like that. But the minute I go in there and say, "Oh, doctor, my heart hurts," they're not going to continue to see me. They're going to refer me to a cardiologist, because why? They are the ones that specialize in the heart. If I continue to go to my primary care for them to service my heart, it's not going to go too far, right? Because their knowledge can only bring me so far.
Right.
right? So definitely if you are in a small business, especially real estate, I think that's where you really need to really vet out people because there's so many different real estate tax laws out there. But if you're service based or restaurant based, then you want to definitely make sure someone understands that industry because you don't want to leave any money on the table, right? So the more someone knows about your industry, the more they can kind of brainstorm with you with the type of things you can do, how to audit proof your business, and just things of that nature.
Perfect, perfect. So what would you say your niche is, or those that you service the best when it comes to business and entrepreneurship?
So I primarily do service-based businesses, but within that niche, I my niche is medical healthcare practitioners. So that's like the therapist, that's massage therapists, chiropractors, things of that nature.
Okay, okay, great, great, great. Give us your contact information, how people, if they've got questions, if they want to pick your brain or say, hey, I know you mentioned go to the IRS website, da 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 da, but who's in your sphere, who's in your circle, I want to chat with you, da da da. How can people find you?
So the easiest way to find me is on my website, which is whiteheadtax.com. I'm also on Facebook. My business page is Whitehead Tax Financial Services, and I am on Instagram at Amber the Tax Lady.
Amber the tax lady, I love that. You need to get some t-shirts, but with the tax lady on there, or have some little bumper sticker on your car about the tax lady.
Right.
Um, tell
My license plate says Tax Lady,
Oh,
though.
does it? Okay,
Yes.
that's good enough. That's good enough. I'm sure the eyebrows are like, okay, she like taxes like that. Okay.
Right.
Uh,
It's funny because people don't know if they should approach me or not. Because I had one person approach me the other day, was like, "Do you work for the IRS or you have your?"
right.
So I guess when people see that, they're kind of like scared to even approach me. It's like, I don't know if I want to talk to her.
I don't want her to like dime me out or whatever the case may be. So funny. Tell us what you've got going on at Tax Whitehead. What can you shared a little bit about yourself, gave us some good tips so far. Tell us what else you do within business. Give us a little bit of skinny on the behind the scenes with you.
Yeah, so I'm actually developing two programs right now. I have such a huge heart for my small business owners that are just starting out because they don't really understand everything that it means to be a business owner, and also more so on the financial side, right? So I'm developing like a 6-month coaching program for business owners who are making like under $50,000 in their business, so that way I'm basically taking them from entity setup all the way through to making sure that you feel comfortable with filing your tax return, whether you use me or you go to someone else. It's all about just giving you the tools that you need. I'm going to have special guests on how to set up your QuickBooks. I'm going to have trademark attorneys, business credit people. All of that is going to be all part of the coaching program. And then, of course, you have me to kind of do a deep dive of deductions, explain to you how to read your tax return. So it's going to be pretty intense, but I think it's going to be worth it. And I think it's really going to help these new business owners really understand what they need to do to propel their business to the next level,
Amen.
right?
Amen. Amen.
The other program I'm working on now is I am venturing off into the CFO advisory services. So basically, I am going to be your personal CFO for your business, where I just basically take control of all the financial backend. You know, do the bookkeeping for you, have these calls with you so that way you understand how your numbers are working in your business, help you understand what your KPIs are, just do all that stuff for you. So that way you can focus on doing what you do best, and that is running your business.
Okay, and for that CFO advisory, is there a certain income bracket that you want for these businesses who are going to be coming?
No,
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, typically, in order to successfully really hire a CFO, you would probably want to be making $100,000 or more in your business. for it to make sense.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, if you hire a CFO in any business, right, you're at least paying them $100,000 a year to run your business, right? Of course, I'm not going to be charging that much or whatever, but that's why we call it a fractional CFO, because it's like, we're just here to really just be your advocate and just help
Right.
you move forward through the financial waters.
Excellent, excellent. And you also mentioned social media. What are we doing on social media? And you mentioned Facebook, Instagram. So what's going on with Whitehead Tax over there?
So every Tuesday, I do a thing called Tax Tuesday. So if you follow me on Facebook, you'll get to see that. It's 8 p.m. Eastern time every week, every Tuesday. And basically, I just come on and just kind of just, vent or give you some tax tips, just so that way, you understand what's coming through the pipeline. Every second Tuesday of the month, I call it Networking Tuesdays, where I bring on a special guest where we can just talk about different things. Last week I had a business credit person on there. She was my second guest because I just started this in July.
Okay.
So next for September, the special guest I'm going to have is a business foundation specialist. So she's basically going to talk about all the things that you need to have in place before you even make your first dollar.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have that strong foundation set up, then
Mm.
you're automatically just, yeah, it's
Talk
not.
about that. Talk about that strong foundation, because that's one of the things. Again, getting back, if you're just coming in and watching, listening, wherever you are, this is Valerie Williams of Dimensional Talent Streams with special guest Amber, the tax lady Whitehead with Whitehead Tax. She's got her own services. And yes, we are talking about it. We're talking about taxes. So don't get scared. Don't turn it off. Don't move. Stay channel in. If you want to get your coins, you need to educate yourself by continuing to stay tuned, listen to this lady. Again, she's a part of my dream team and she's whipping that whip with me. And I am so grateful to have her in my life to really be educated, because through my journey, I've learned things that I didn't even think I would have an interest in, like copywriting, for example, and tax code. And I actually love tax code and learning about them and learning to find those hidden treasures. I call it, hidden treasure and these dark places. And so I like finding that little treasure hunt and learning, okay, what I did wrong, what I missed, and da 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 da. And I always walk away with something that is like an aha moment from Amber, like, okay, I need to correct that, or I've got a weakness in that. Okay, let me jot that down. So, I mean, and as business owners, you're learning every single day. If you're not a business owner, you should be learning every single day, and welcome that, so that you can continue to advance and leave legacy and inheritance for family and loved ones. And this is all so key and a part of doing that and being educated. So I can't say enough about it, but I never thought I would love, tax code. And so even with tax preparing, I'm one of those people. Yeah, there's a little pit in my stomach, but I've learned to grab this bull by the horns and, to come get myself out of that funk. And so this is my way of doing that and having me a good CPA, building that dream team that's going to say, Val, you don't do that. You're not doing this right. Let's change this, or, fix this, da, 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 da. And that's what this is all about. And it all starts with education. So I hope if you have been listening that you are grabbing value today, hearing these value bombs. Amber, tell us, what are some of the most common questions that you get from your clients? Now, I'm sure you kind of have, I like to call it a mixed multitude. You may have the business owner, maybe not the business owner, the joint filing, the single, the head of household. I'm sure you've seen quite some interesting things. What are some of the most common things that you get that you have to educate us on?
Right. So I'll talk about it from the wage earners. So those people who work 9 to 5s. One of the most common questions that I get well, not common questions, but some of the things that I feel like they're not educated on. There's a myth that is going around for some reason that people think when their child turns 18 that they no longer can claim them as a dependent,
Mm.
right? And so I've noticed a lot of like new clients that come over. I'm like, oh, why are you not claiming you're a dependent this year? They're like, well, they're 18. I don't. Who told you that, right?
Mm.
So that's something that you can by law still claim your dependent child even if they're 18, as long as you are still providing over 50% of their support. And even more so if they are a full-time college student, because you can claim your child all the way up to age 24 as long as they're a full-time college student, right? The other thing that I see a lot of people miss is when they take money out of their 401k.
Mm.
People think because I've already paid the taxes on that, so I don't have to file that. And that's where it's wrong, because it's no difference than why do we file our W-2s? The taxes already come out of that, right? But we still have to file that form because the
Right.
IRS still wants us to report all of our income that we received in the year.
Mhm.
So, and people don't realize that there's a penalty for that. So here's some free gems, right? If you do have a 401k plan, before you do a hard withdrawal, find out if you could take a loan against it, right? Because if you are able to take a loan against your 401k plan, then there's no tax implications, right? Because you're paying back that loan through your payroll deductions,
Mhm.
right? So there's no tax implications. The only way it will be a tax implication is say you left your job, right, before you finish paying off that loan. So whatever the balance is left over that you didn't
Yeah.
pay will be considered taxable income to you. So I always tell people to do that approach first, right, before you actually do that hard withdrawal. Also, if you are not contributing to your 401k, do so, maximize that, because that's a pre-tax deduction. So that's going to lower your taxable income,
Mhm.
right? Which will put you in a more favorable position, especially if you're not having enough withholdings coming out. You may be able to balance it out that way.
And
So that's for the wage earners.
mhm.
Um, for the business owners, one of the things I always find is that they are filing their personal returns without filing their business income and expenses, because they think that because they have a business that the business has a separate return. And that is not true if you are a single member LLC or a sole proprietor.
Say
The
that
only
again. Say that again.
the only people that are supposed to file a separate business return is if you are a corporation, whether that's an S corp or a C corp or a partnership. Other than that, everything gets filed on your personal return via Schedule C. So I find that happens a lot of times for
Mm,
business
mm,
owners.
That's why I said say that again. Say that again. Ooh. All right. Now you said all taxable income. And I know I've learned from you about, taxable income, because I think there's also a misconception about taxable income and what we should be including as taxable income. Number one, first define taxable income for us and give us, if you can, some of those taxable incomes that we miss, because I know I've missed some, like for example, the interest from our banks.
Mhm.
Okay. So talk about some of those taxable incomes that we miss, or we just automatically think that that is not something that we can include.
Okay. So taxable income, basically on a high level nutshell, is basically any money that you are receiving, whether it's earned or unearned. So unearned income would be like unemployment, bank interest, right? Because those are all unearned, dividend income, things of that nature when you have stocks. Earned income, of course, is self-employment income or your 9 to 5 income. So things of that nature. Some of the things that are typically missed, besides the one I mentioned earlier, where people don't, claim the 401k withdrawals, but other ones is bank interest, because it's such a small amount, but
Right, right.
because the IRS says if it gets to $10, you have to report it, right? So a lot of people miss that, and it's funny because you will get a letter from the IRS saying, "Hey, you forgot to report, $10 of income," and you don't want that to happen, right? Um, but here's a big one that people do not realize, and that is cancellation of debt, right? So this happens a lot when
Ooh,
people are settling any debt with a creditor. And I find this happens a lot when people are trying to buy a home, for example, right?
yeah.
And you can't have all this collection stuff, on your credit report or whatever. So the goal is you don't want to pay it all in full, so you'll negotiate with that creditor just so that way you can pay it in full. So
Right.
the IRS says if any debt is settled for $600 or more, it is considered taxable income to you. Why? Because they say you no longer have to pay that, so therefore it's additional income to you.
Right. It's gone
Right.
somewhere. You've gotten that. I can
Right.
attest to that so huge because, my mom always owned things, had a three-family back in the day, had property in the islands, land, had a house and whatnot. And she decided, hey, I'm retirement. I'm gonna go to Jamaica. I got all this land I can build, blah, blah, blah. And when it came time to selling that three-family home, she got slapped, and it was like this big shock because it's like, okay, she got some of that money back from selling, from that transaction of selling her home, and and even though she did take some of the funds and did what she needed to do to build the home in Jamaica, she still received that funds, and she did have some left over even after she did all that she had to do. So she got slapped with the tax thing, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, so that was another major big thing. And it's like, when like you even talked about it, there's so much tax code when it comes to real estate. And tax code changes every year. And again, that's going to get back to being educated and having a good tax professional who is up to date with those tax changes every single year. What would you say? Because I know there's big debate out there. I've addressed this issue on my podcast with just educating and the questions to ask and blah, blah, blah. But I guess people, I don't want to say people are lazy. I think that's too strong of a word. I just think we get busy. We feel like, oh, I can just get somebody else to do it. And once I do it and I hand that off, I'm good. But speak to being educated or having some type of foundation with some of the changes that we have to deal with when we're filing our taxes year to year, and how that, the tax code and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important that you have a good understanding of the tax law. You don't have to be an expert in it,
Right.
right? But you don't want to use someone and they just tell you anything and you have no way to discern if what they're telling you is true or not,
Mhm.
right? So, because if you're not educating yourself in the background, then they can just tell you anything. And that's what pretty much happens a lot. And that's why there's so many I call them tax preparers. I'm not going to even say professionals, but that's
Right.
why so many tax preparers are getting caught by the IRS because they're filing fraudulent tax returns for people. You
Ugh.
know, if you're getting a refund of like $10,000, $15,000, you should want to question that, right? Like, what did I do
Mhm.
that would qualify me to get that type of a refund?
That's
What is on my return, right? So you need to ask those questions. Or why do I owe $15,000? Right? Is there something that was missing? But if you're just taking it, for the grain of salt, okay, yeah, I'm getting $15,000 back, or I owe 50,000, and you don't question anything, then you put yourself in the position of getting audited, especially with the refund. Not so much if you owe, because the IRS don't care if you owe.
Yeah, they'll take
You
your
wasn't
money.
supposed to owe
Yes,
that
sir.
amount. They're like, oh well, we winning, right? But but it's those refunds that is going to really pull the trigger, because the IRS is going to look at it themselves and say, hey, why is Valerie getting a $15,000 refund? Let's
Mhm.
examine this return and to see if any of these things are true. And
Right.
that's what happens. So definitely educate. If something doesn't seem right, get a second opinion,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then we also have to learn how to, I am big about being loyal, because I've had people that's been with me since day one. I've been in the business now for 10 years with my business that have been with me since day one. But sometimes there will come a time where you need to have a new person, right? Maybe that person can only take you as far as you can go, and now you stepped up and now you're going to go into franchises, whatever. I don't specialize in franchises, so I may not be your best fit at that, when you want to decide to move there. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to cut ties with your tax professional if you feel like they're not, giving you what you need,
Right.
because we all have to progress.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Share with us something that you would like to see change within the tax industry.
I would love to see more regulation around tax preparers,
Mm.
honestly, because if you did not know, there's no requirements at all to become a tax preparer. You do not have to have education, you do not have to have experience, you don't have to have any of that. Your neighbor next door to you can tomorrow say, hey, I'm doing taxes, and
Yeah,
it's totally fine, right? And because there's no regulation. So I believe if we had more regulation, then us tax professionals wouldn't get such a bad rep, because it's really disheartening when we have clients that come to us and they're so used to having their taxes done in the wrong way by the wrong tax preparer. So when they come to us, we're like, no, you can't do that. Like, wait a minute, well, I've been doing that for the past 5-10 years and nothing ever. Well, so it creates that bad rep for us when we are trying to do the right things, because you have so many of these unregulated tax preparers out here that just really in it just for the money and
right.
really don't have your best interests at hand. So
Mm.
that's why, again, it pays to really vet out who you want to use for your tax needs.
Yeah. So what would you say from your response with that? How are you changing things or taking into consideration all of that? How does that affect the way you're doing your business? And what, with some of those things that you want to change, how are you able to say, hey, I don't really like that. This is what I'm going to do to separate myself within the industry and for what I offer to my clients?
I think the thing that I just started offering this year, which has been a huge success, and I think you even said it too, Valerie, that I do video reviews,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm all about that transparency. Again, you need to know what went into your return. You need to understand why we did it that way, so that way you feel comfortable signing off on it. So giving you that transparency, giving you that education, to me puts me at a different level, so that way you can't say, oh, I'm doing this wrong or whatever, because I'm explaining it to you and giving you, trying to give you not the exact tax code, but trying to explain to you in layman's terms what this tax code actually means or
Yes.
whatever. So that's how I try to distinguish myself from other people. And then I am an IRS enrolled agent, so I have to take continuing ed all the time. So I
Right.
have to stay abreast on all the new tax laws that's coming up.
Right.
So
Right, right, right. And I call that, to be honest, I call that white glove service. I'm sorry. You need to rename that or add some, additional things that you roll into your service and call it white glove and then just list it out and people can check da 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 da. I mean, definitely with the videos and the education, but think about, some additional things that you do that you may not even be aware of that you are having in there, but really break it out so people understand, listen, no, everybody's not offering this, and just label it additional, white glove service, or have a category and just break it down and have a checklist. So people realize, no, people don't really offer, do this. This is something I do. This is what I've seen in the industry based on the number of years that I've been doing it. And, I really have a desire for you to not only just get your taxes done, but be educated and knowing why this is that. And this is why you got to do this way. Uh,
right. And I think that's why I offer my care package, because one of the things that's built in my care package is that you get 2 hours of time with me throughout the year.
Yeah, so
So if you
go
want to do,
back. So let's scale back. Let me pull that
okay.
back. I'm gonna rein you in. So, you have me, and I'm not scared to say it. I'm a client, I've got you. And so that's why I've got you on. And one of the things that attracted me was I went and I did the research. I knew what questions I was gonna come with, but that was because I had education on the back end so that I could know what questions to ask you, and
Right.
kind of where to find you and where to find other additional CPAs, and then make the discernment decision to see if we were a good fit. But once we got on the phone, it was like this synergy. Like I knew, I said, okay, yeah, she's real. She's gonna somebody that's gonna put my feet to the fire, and that is what I need because I have that personality as well. So I'm not gonna be offended when you say, Val, girl, you messed up on that. That's, you got to fix that, like, because next year you could come out, and I know when I get ready to go back and watch my stuff, I'm sure I'm looking for that. to be honest, I'm looking for that because I want to better myself, you know what I mean, and be the best version so that when I'm dealing with my clients and stuff, I pull in all of that experience. I pull on
Right.
all of my mistakes and all of my things that I've come out on and that's a part of what I do, and I can extend that to people. So getting back to that, yeah, I'm looking for that. But talk to us now when you have your clients, what are the things that they are getting with you when they come on with you?
Right. So the number one thing that they're getting from me is my integrity, right? I'm abide, by the law of the IRS to make sure I do things accurately. And then just plus just this who I am, right? I'm all about ethics. So they're gonna get that. They're gonna get the realness from me. And that's one reason why I I love you as a client, because you take constructive criticism, and that has to be part of it, right? Because in order for you to really grow in your business, you have to take, the constructive criticism that I'm giving you on how you need to do things better, and in order to, to grow your business. So
Yeah.
having that, is great. And I'm very real when I talk to people. The other thing is that, I am all year round, right? So if you do need to contact me, I'm here, and I encourage it, because again, you should not be contacting your tax professional when it's time to file your taxes.
Amen.
That's
That's
you're
my
a day
biggest
too late.
soapbox. That's my soapbox.
Right? You are absolutely late, because the magic happens throughout the year. And
Mhm.
if you don't have those discussions or whatever, like, I want to do this, or I'm thinking about doing this, or this has already happened, how is this going to impact me in my taxes? These are the questions you need to ask. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, then you don't have anyone to talk to. And also, I stand behind my work. So if you were ever to get audited or whatever, I will take the full onus of that and be able to work with the IRS to prove out my case and why I felt X, Y, and Z was correct.
Mm.
So you have that guarantee. So working with me, you get basically peace of mind.
That is so key. That is so key. And at the same time, not only that peace of mind, you're getting the education, and you really are getting that white glove service that comes with that education. Because as you said, you are real. You break it down in layman terms, so anybody can get with this. Anybody can, walk away and understand and grab some keys and some gems. And then the other thing is the way in which you do it, like you talked about, you give video. So talk about a little bit about that video, what's in it, how often do you do that?
So with the video reviews, it's pretty much I do it once I'm done with someone's tax return. So that way, I do a self-recorded video, and I'm going through your return line by line. So that way you're understanding exactly everything that was put into your return, things that I see are missing, and I will still ask, hey, did you have that? Because sometimes, time moves by so fast, right? We forget the income items that we receive throughout the year. One
Mm,
of the biggest things that I find that people miss is when we leave a job, right? Because when we leave a job, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
right,
Deuces, I don't want to work for you no more, right?
right.
But what we need to pay attention to is those jobs that we leave the last 2 weeks of December of any given year. Why? Because that final check that you get may be issued in January of the next year.
Hmm.
Therefore, it's going to trigger that W-2. So I suggest people to kind of keep a log of all the jobs that you had in the year. So that way, as those W-2s are coming through, you're able to check them off. Okay, yeah, that one came in, that one came in. Because again, you don't want to miss out on income. So that's why I go through the income section of the tax return and thorough with my clients. So that way they can be like, oh wait, yeah, that did happen. Oh wait, she didn't make mention of this, but let me bring it up to see if this is something I need to report.
Hmm. Another question. I've got like all of these questions that are like fluent in me. I'm like, la, 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 what I want to ask first. Um, with that being said, um, just talk about, like, I know you kind of touched on this, that you would like to see some things done better, and as a result there's some things that you kind of implemented. But talk to us about, and I know you also touched upon this too, because you talked about some other things that you're doing with education and just the course building that you're doing. But talk to us about another issue or kind of another soapbox for you that you would be like, if I could stand up and shout from the rooftops, this would be one of the things that I would shout. What would it be?
know your numbers
Yeah.
as a business owner.
Yeah.
That
Huge.
is
Huge.
my pet peeve.
Mm,
And I've seen it more so this year than anything. And I think it had a lot to do with, when the pandemic happened, they call that what, the great resignation, because
mhm.
people
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
started leaving their jobs, doing their businesses and things of that nature. So there was an influx of businesses, and I've got some of those new business owners. And it's sad because they don't understand how to track the income and expenses. If I ask them, how much money did you make? I don't know how much money I made. You're supposed to know these things, in your business, because if you don't know your numbers, then how can you make those decisions whether to hire somebody, whether to get that office space, or whether you want to any kind of expansion, need new equipment? You don't know your numbers, you can't make those decisions. And if you are making those decisions without knowing your numbers, then you're probably not profitable.
Mm, mm.
And if you continue going down that path, what's going to end up happening? You're going to end up having to close your business. It's already stated that I think 90% of small business owners
Yeah.
fail within their
The
first
certain
year,
amount.
but
Yeah.
within people of color, it's almost nearly
Double.
100%,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because we are not taking the time to know our numbers. And whether you do it on Excel or anything like that, start off with Excel. If you're going to use QuickBooks, that's another thing. Why use QuickBooks? But garbage in, garbage out. Know what you're doing. Understand the fundamentals of QuickBooks. Take a little course or whatever, so that way you can understand. Because I've seen people's QuickBook profit and loss, and it's totally wrong. Right? They just got everything going in there.
Oh my God. Oh, I mean, that'll preach right there for a minute. You make sure when you do your course, you got that as like your number one, like have a little section called foundationals,
Right.
happy know your numbers. I mean, I can't, I don't want to sound like, Val's got it together, da 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 da, but there are some things like my degree is in business, and I love business like men love cars. I like to give that the analogy because then you get it.
Right.
First, I ended up in the healthcare industry, which is kind of interesting. But at the same time, I was able to take that healthcare background and marry it with my business background and
Mm-hmm.
try to create this healing and deliverance and health holistic approach within business and to business, because you got to be honest, Amber. I hear so much, oh, they make it sound like business owners is so easy, or get your business, you're gonna have all this amount of money coming back, da 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 da. And yeah, that may be true, but there's a journey to get to that level,
Right.
for that to take place. There's daily things that have to take place. Like you get up and there's certain like the things in your life that you have to do on a daily basis,
Right.
just to make yourself look good, for hygiene, da 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 da. So this is like the hygiene of business. There's daily things you've got to do. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it to be successful. And
Right.
so tax is one of those things, and knowing your numbers is one of those things. It's like the analogy where we say if you don't have leads for your business, no leads. If you're not talking to people and out there doing anything, you don't really have a business. You got a hobby. It is the same critical thing when it comes to knowing your numbers. I'm on that soapbox with you. I can't talk fast enough about that. Um, but like I said, I don't profess to be the got it all together, but that was one of the things when I officially started doing my business of I wanted to do it right. I was like,
Right.
listen, I don't want to play around with this. This is serious. There's long-term implications that can affect me, people I'm dealing with. So I want to know, I got to have my foundation strong. I've got to know what I'm doing. I've got, and I've got journals and journals, just
Mm,
business journals alone with, things I do on a daily basis, things that got to be done, 2 months, maybe a 3-month project. So I've got business journals alone
nice.
just of what I try to track. And so I know when I started, like I said, I had to have my foundation. I had to know what I'm doing. I don't like mess. I
Right.
don't do good with mess. I have to have some kind of order, call it ADHD, whatever you want to call it. But I had to have order. And I'm like, if I don't know what I'm doing, I've that's not, I can't have that. And so I
Right.
always came in like, I have got to know what I'm doing. I've got to know my foundation. And so that was a reason why I got involved with some of these, entrepreneurial groups, some of these tax planning groups. So, and it empowered me. And when you can get educated, it
I
empowers you. I mean,
does.
we hear all about there's this new thing now called the she boss and the she rose and
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
these people that got these businesses and logos and hashtags and taglines and that power of the she. And that power comes through what's available to you. But if we don't educate ourselves, if we're not doing that daily hygiene for our businesses, then we can't take advantage of all those things that are available to us. And it's just
Right.
fact. So I can't say about, and I know like for my numbers, it's like, yeah, I didn't want to do the Excel and all that, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, I got to know what I'm doing. It's a part
Right.
of knowing what you're doing. And if you are doing anything to begin with, and if you're not doing anything to begin with, then okay, I gotta kick this in gear.
Right.
So this, like I'm thinking about my numbers and I'm like, okay, yeah, I got to do X, Y, and Z for the coming forward, and I got to implement this. We're in going into September in like 2 weeks. We're coming to the end of the
Oof.
year, guys. We're coming in the fourth quarter push all over
Wow.
again. And so it's like you got to have that mindset that every quarter or that you're reassessing and that you're almost like ahead of the next quarter because you're in third quarter, but you're already thinking about fourth quarter and the first quarter of the new year. So that
Right.
you begin to decide, okay, where's my weakness? What do I need to change so that when I go to in the new year, I'm not shocked or I'm not just talking talk, but I'm actually doing it. You know,
Right.
so it's almost like you kind of got to be a little bit ahead of yourself, and kind of do those projections, but know your numbers will be able to tell you that.
Yep. It
so
sure will.
I I can't even say enough for that. So again, if you are watching, you're just coming in. Again, this is Valerie of Dimensional Talent Streams. Like, subscribe, follow me on YouTube. Follow me on the Lena Jones Diamond Network podcast.com every Tuesday, every Saturday. And I'm here with my special guest, Amber Whitehead, the tax lady for sure, which is really laying it down on tax code. Give us some last words, anything you want the audience to know, listeners to know about you, what you do, about the tax industry in general.
um, I would want to just kind of just point out something that the IRS just did new recently,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to be important because I'm always of the mindset that whenever the IRS does something in our favor, that if you were to get audited, they're going to scrutinize that area a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did was effective July 1st, they increased the mileage rate to 62 and a half cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
To compensate for, those high gas prices that we're paying now. So it would be in your best interest to make sure you have two set of books, one from January to June of your miles, and then another fresh set from July to December. Because if you were to get audited, I'm quite sure the IRS is going to want to see
Yeah.
those two distinctions because they're different. Because it goes from what, 58 and a half to 62 and a half. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge jump, right? That's extra 4 cents. That adds up quickly. Um, Also, make sure your stuff is digital. Your receipts, your mileage apps, those are digital format. Keep all those things because keeping paper receipts is not going to be in your best interest because over time they fade. And
Yes.
in the IRA, we just finished, well, we're not completely done with tax year 21, but the IRS can come back in 2025 and audit your 21 tax return because they have 3 years.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you that because I know, people ask this a lot. How long should they be keeping their tax returns when they file them?
Yeah, at least 3 years. I mean, minimally, I would say 7 because if the IRS finds anything fraudulent, they can go back, 7 years. But if you're not doing anything crazy, 3 years. But to be on the safe side, I would just say 7. But going back, what I was saying is that since they can come back 3 years later from now, those receipts will be all faded and mush and stuff like that. How can you um justify that expense if you don't have it in digital format,
Mm,
right?
mm,
I don't know if you're anything like me, but I don't remember what I did yesterday. So
right.
make sure that on your receipt, especially when you're going out for meals and you're taking clients out or whatever, you want to make sure that all that is documented, as well as possible. So then that way you can trigger you. Oh yeah, I went with Valerie. We went out to dinner because we wanted to talk about marketing. How she can get me more referrals or whatever. Document as much as you can on those receipts and scan it.
Mm.
So that way you have a digital copy for yourself.
Right, that excellent tip. And there's so much software. I know people get scared, of digital and whatnot. And if you're not digital, you get on the bandwagon quick
Yeah.
because as a result of COVID and about even more so, um,
Right.
online businesses has even, triple doubled. And even business brick and mortars have had to do some things digitally that they didn't have to do prior to COVID. So
Right.
that really pushed us to really getting even more so into the digital age, and it's not going to go back. It's going to continue to advance. So yeah, that's a huge tip. We got about 2 seconds right here. Amber, I want to thank you so much. A wealth of information. Again, give us your contact information, how folks can reach you.
All right. So the website is whiteheadtax.com, or you can follow me on Facebook via my business page, Whitehead Tax and Financial Services, or on Instagram at Amber the Tax Lady.
All right. Well, you heard it here. You heard it here first. Again, we're getting ready to transition to that first quarter push. And got to start thinking about that first quarter. And if you haven't started, you need to listen, rewatch this video, take notes, look this
Right.
up, and start, getting on it. Again, one of my mottos is you want to change your position, change your condition. And it starts by
Mm.
rewatching these type of videos and really getting plugged in. Again, that's going to do it for me today, guys. I'm Valerie Williams of Dimensional Talent Streams. Again, redirecting you in being fruitful and multiplying. Amber, hang tight with me. I'll see everyone next week. Take care and bye bye.